I know we have discussed how to handle PDR cases with membranes in a previous video, but I believe it's always good to review. In this video I summarize 10 steps you should always consider in these cases. Let's dive in. So remember that a membrane forms attached to the hyaloid at the posterior pole, while the rest remains slightly free, like a small basket. The first step to consider is to cut or isolate these vitreous from the membranes at the posterior pole. This is to ensure that when manipulating the membranes, you don't inadvertently pull on the peripheral retina and cause a tear. Now look at these membranes and how large and prominent these neovessels are. This neovascularization will bleed significantly with the slightest touch, and believe me, they will greatly hinder your visibility for continuing to dissect the membranes. So the next step, never forget, is to cauterize them thoroughly before starting any manipulation. Now let's magnify the image to start the real work. It's time to find a good place to begin the dissection of these membranes. Here, as you can see, there seems to be a window where you could start, but it's blocked by the thickened hyaloid. So a good tip is to grasp the edges of the area where you plan to start and use the light pipe to create a small hole. This way, you have a window to access with the vitrector, and then you can proceed to the cut of the membranes, which will be the next step. Remember, never pull the membranes upward, always work in the plane of the retina. Do it carefully, always visualize in the same plane to avoid damaging other structures. As you begin to dissect these membranes, you will have the opportunity to start detaching the posterior hyaloid. Here, don't rush and proceed calmly. Always visualizing the tip of the vitrector to ensure you don't grasp a piece of retina hidden beneath those membranes. Patience is the key. Once you have freed part of the membranes at the posterior pole, you will start to see how the next step is to elevate the posterior hyaloid. When you pull it, do it so carefully as there will be areas where small neovascularizations are attached and you could cause an inadvertent tear. Always identify these areas and cut them before proceeding. Always dissect these membranes by sectors. Complete one side entirely before moving to another part. Follow a systematic order. Now look, once that you have finished to dissect these membranes from the posterior pole, you can easily elevate the remnant posterior hyaloid and finish the vitrectomy, which will be the next step. Whenever possible, use triamcinolone to be sure that there is no remaining posterior hyaloid. Now, as you may know, in every diabetic patient, after you have completed the vitrectomy, always apply laser treatment. Here, as you can see, PRP had already been applied, yet the retinopathy progressed significantly. Therefore, even in areas that have already been treated with laser, apply more laser. Believe me, this will help the most in preventing rebleeding into the vitreous cavity and keeping the retinopathy in check. I know this wasn't direct mitogenous retinal detachment, but you manipulated and pulled the hyaloid significantly, so it's not unusual to cause a tear or injury in the periphery. Always make sure to perform a throughout indentation. Now the final step will be to perform the fluid air exchange, making sure not to touch the clots on the optic nerve. Leave them alone, the clots will disappear slowly with time, and if you remove the clots at the end of the surgery, you can cause rebleeding. An extra bonus to consider is to apply more laser under air, as you can see better the periphery, and I always consider to apply an anti-VEGF injection at the end of the procedure before close the eye. So I think that's it. I hope this will be useful for you in your next cases, and as always, thank you for watching.